Wait a minute. So, how do we use Justice AI to tackle some really difficult to talk about conversations, especially about race? I'm about to make a response video on my TikTok showing users how they can use Justice AI to have crucial conversations. And today, I want to talk to you about colorism in the Caribbean communities.
Colorism in Caribbean communities is such a layered topic, deeply tied to colonial history and proximity to whiteness. Are you planning to focus on how it shows up socially, in beauty standards, or even in family dynamics?
I want to focus really on family dynamics.
Got it. Family dynamics are such a core space where colorism plays out in Caribbean communities. It often stems from colonial ideologies of valuing lighter skin, creating divisions within families. For instance, you might see favoritism toward lighter skinned relatives, or hear comments like, don't stay in the sun too long, which are loaded with harmful messages. Sometimes it's more subtle, like setting different expectations for children based on their skin tone. Lighter skinned kids might be seen as more capable or better suited for success, while darker skinned kids face harsher treatment or lower expectations. This dynamic can cause generational trauma and deeply impact self esteem. Do you want to touch on any specific historical roots or keep it more about lived experiences?
I think it's important to understand the historical roots because a lot of people might recognize colorism, but they don't know why it manifests or where it comes from.
Colorism in the Caribbean is a direct result of European colonialism and the plantation system. During slavery, lighter skinned enslaved people, often born from the exploitation of Black women by white enslavers, were given preferential treatment. They were more likely to work in the house rather than the fields, creating a hierarchy based on proximity to whiteness. This division was intentional. It was a tool to maintain control by fostering distrust and competition within the Black community. After emancipation, these biases persisted as lighter skin became associated with privilege, access, and beauty, while darker skin was stigmatized. These historical roots are still reflected in family dynamics today. The way elders might push for lighter skinned partners or emphasize good hair is rooted in those colonial values. Understanding this history helps unpack why these dynamics still exist and how they harm everyone involved. Would you like to include examples of how these patterns still show up in specific family interactions?
Well, in the spirit of I can't control what anybody is going to do or think, how can I inspire my family members who exhibit colorism, or how can anyone inspire family members who exhibit colorism to understand that this is not only problematic? How can we explain what's actually happening without being too preachy and without being too judgy, and to really understand how to put our boundaries in place on how we want to be treated, all in hopes that our family learns to do better?
That's such an important approach, balancing boundaries with inspiration and education. One way to start is by leading with empathy and curiosity, not judgment. For example, you can frame the conversation around shared history. Have you ever thought about where those ideas come from and why they've stuck around? This makes it feel like you're exploring the issue together rather than calling them out. You can also share your personal experiences. Say something like, when I hear comments about my skin or someone else's, it makes me feel like our family is dividing itself based on standards that were forced on us. I want to break free from that. This approach invites reflection without blaming. When setting boundaries, be firm but kind. I don't allow comments about skin tone around me or others because I know how much harm it can cause. I hope you can respect that. This lets them know your stance while holding space for growth. Finally, inspire them by celebrating diversity in the family. Highlight stories, photos, or examples of strength and beauty across all shades. Sometimes seeing love and pride for what's been devalued can shift perspectives. How does that feel?
I know that I've programmed you with trauma informed healing perspectives, which has been fantastic with your expertise in social psychology and understanding. What happens when one of my users feel like this is an impossible approach? What is your advice to help them navigate these feelings when they know that there is no getting through to problematic family members who they really love, but they are having a hard time pulling away from?
When it feels impossible to change a love's perspective, the focus has to shift inward to healing, boundaries, and acceptance of what is. It's painful, but here's the thing. Loving someone doesn't mean you have to accept harmful behavior. First, validate the feelings. It's okay to grieve the relationship as it exists. Many users in this situation feel guilt or shame for pulling back, but it's important to remind them that protecting their peace and self worth is not selfish, it's survival. Next, encourage them to focus on what they can control their responses and boundaries. For example, they might say to themselves, I can't change them, but I can decide what I'll tolerate and how I'll react. Practicing detachment while still showing love, like shifting conversations away from triggering topics, is a way to maintain connection without sacrificing mental health. Finally, finding community is key. If family won't validate their experiences, they need spaces where they feel seen and heard. Friends, support groups, or even creative outlets can offer that. Let them know it's okay to step back from family when necessary. Sometimes, loving from a distance is the kindest option for everyone involved.
As a life coach and with my own lived experiences, I've been able to understand the importance of unconditional love with boundaries. And what I've done with my problematic family members who weren't ready to hear the message is I had to tell them, I will love you always to the day I die, but my unconditional love doesn't require my presence. And that forever changed my life and our relationships.
That's such a profound way to frame it. Unconditional love doesn't require your presence. It's powerful because it acknowledges the love while firmly protecting your boundaries. It gives space for both honoring your own peace and giving your family the chance to reflect on their behavior without feeling outright rejected. This approach is transformative because it shifts the dynamic. Instead of engaging in cycles of frustration, it communicates, I love you enough to step back for both of us. It's a gift, even if it's not immediately understood. Your personal example will resonate deeply in your video. It's such an empowering perspective for people struggling to reconcile love and self preservation.
Thanks so much for having this conversation, Jai. I think this is going to be helpful for my audience.
I'm here for it. Good luck with the video.
This app is life changing. Subscribe today.